I feel confident in what Cole Reagans is going to be able to do on the mound. He's ready for this moment. He knows what it means. And win the game into the 7th inning, and then let's turn it over to Harvey and Ursig and Zerpa and Estevez, and let's get it done. I want to see that formula from the beginning of the season. One Royal Way back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed on all audio and video platforms. Hit that like button if you are watching this on YouTube, and hit those notification bells so you know when our content goes up. We are now into the season. This is our 2nd episode this week. I'll have one that goes up on Friday, reviewing opening day and the next 2 games of the series against the Cleveland Guardians. Opening day is tomorrow, Thursday, the 27th. I'm going to be out there. I am so excited. It's going to be a sold-out Kauffman Stadium. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see how this team plays, how the crowd reacts to all of this. I'm just so excited baseball's back, and it's real baseball. It's going to count to the 162-game season. I'm excited for it. Opening day is one of my favorite days of the year, as I'm sure many of you guys, it's the same way for you if you're a diehard baseball fan. So we got a lot to get into at the beginning of the episode. The roster is set at this point with the 26-man opening day roster after a bunch of shuffling. We'll get into that, and then we'll preview opening day. Not necessarily the entire series, because we don't have the probables for Saturday and Sunday, at least at the time of recording, for Cleveland. So it'll just be opening day, talk a little bit about Cleveland's roster and their offseason, and we'll go from there. Before I do that, the show is also, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank, our partners in Possible, member FDIC, huge supporters of KCSN and this podcast, and we can't thank them enough for that, allowing us to be able to do this show. We're very, very grateful for it, especially moving now to multiple episodes a week, which I'm super excited to be able to get to you guys. If you have not seen the predictions episode that I did with Peter Apple from Just Baseball Media, be sure to go check that out. That one's up on all platforms. That one up on Tuesday. We did predictions for the Royals, like superlative type. And then we did awards and playoff teams for all of Major League Baseball. It was a lot of fun. Peter is a great content creator with baseball. He knows his stuff. So be sure to go check that out, and go check out the Just Baseball Media stuff if you want a more national perspective on the game outside of just Kansas City. I believe it was on Sunday was when this occurred. Nick Prado, Nelson Velasquez, and Carlos Hernandez were all put on waivers, which means they did not make the 26-man roster. Hernandez was claimed by the Phillies during that process, so he's no longer with the Royals. Sucks it didn't work out. I think there is a big league pitcher somewhere in there, and maybe, as I mentioned earlier in a previous episode, maybe a change of scenery is just what he needs to kind of unlock some things. Wish him nothing but the best. I never really interacted with him, but anytime I saw him in the clubhouse or around the Royals during the season last year, always had a smile on his face, always laughing, always seemed like a good clubhouse guy. So hopefully he sticks it with Phillies, and we'll see what happens from there. Nick Prado and Nelson Velasquez cleared waivers and were outrighted back to Omaha. So they're not on the 40 anymore, and they're pretty much just organizational depth at this point. I wouldn't be shocked to see either one maybe get a chance if they right the ship a little bit and they find, kind of fine tune some things and produce in AAA. And there is enough question marks in the outfield that, hey, maybe there's a chance for them to make their way back if things go right. But right now, they're just their organizational depth, and they kind of proved that with performance last season and this spring in some cases. Trade went down over the weekend as well, late last week after we had already recorded an episode. Mark Canha for cash considerations for the Milwaukee Brewers. He was a non-roster invite to the Brewers, so he was technically a non-roster invite to Kansas City. But when they made that trade, it became pretty clear, like, oh, they're going to try and put this guy on the roster, and they did. He was selected to the 40-man roster. He is going to be on the 26-man roster to open camp. A guy that has spent the majority of his career with the A's. He's bounced around here and there after that. What he's really known for is being a guy that gets on base. A career on base at 349 was not great last season between Detroit and the Giants, slash 242, 344, 346. He was a guy that was able to slug around, a little over 400 at the beginning of his career, but he's not necessarily that guy anymore. He's 35, but he can still draw a walk through 51 walks in 462 plate appearances last season. Uh, it's the kind of thing the Royals need. And it may not look real sexy. It may not be a big name or a super high impact bat. But I think the message is pretty clear from JJ Piccolo based on some of the moves that he's made and some of the guys that are on this 26-man roster. They want guys that are going to get on base and are going to draw walks. One of the things that we saw from some of these Royals teams, the 13, 14, 15 teams, even 16, 17, even if those teams weren't as successful, this is what we saw from them. And even it's kind of preceded, the last few seasons as well. The Royals aren't going to strike out a ton. They're going to put a ton of balls in play, but they're not going to walk a lot. And they're going to make a bunch of contact and hope the BABIP gods are in their favor. And those bouncing balls and soft contact and putting the ball in play goes in their favor more often than not. It's not always that sustainable, but getting on base is, and drawing a walk is, because it can set the table for the guys behind you. That's why you go and get Jonathan India to be a traditional leadoff hitter that can get on base and is willing to take a walk. 12% walk rate last year. More than willing to do that, and it's a very important skill to have. Kevin Biggio's got a career on base around 340. Even if he's not a fantastic hitter, he's a very platoon heavy guy against right-handed pitching, but he'll still take a walk more, and even with a decent strikeout clip, he'll at least take a walk. Mark Canha, it's the exact same thing. So they're trying to put guys that will take a walk around some of these aggressive hitters. Bobby Witt Jr. is an aggressive hitter. Set a career high in walk rate last year, but it's like 8%. That's not super high, and that's probably about what he needs to be given his contact ability. Vinny Pasquantino can take a walk, but he's become a little bit more of an aggressive hitter. We all know Salvador Perez, even though he set a career high in walk rate last year, he's going to swing. So supplementing the lineup and supplementing the roster with guys that are more selective, more patient, work more plate appearances, I think it can have an infection on the offense in a good way of just, hey, get on base. Maybe these guys are able to take some things from what Biggio and Canha and India do at the plate, and we see that walk rate start to increase throughout the lineup. It's really interesting. It was not one that I thought the Royals would make. I thought they would go a little bit younger, more positional versatility from the right side. Then what Mark Canha is going to do, he's going to stick in a corner, play DH, a little bit of first. But outside of that, no, there's not really a ton there. So, well, I'm still curious if it's actually going to work out, but I understand the process of what they were trying to go for there. Going and getting Mark Canha to bring him in and see where we're at. 3 IL stints to start the year, all pitchers. Alec Marsh, Kyle Wright, and James McArthur are all going to start on the 15-day IL. That seemed inevitable given how we didn't see any of them in games in spring training. They were all a little bit behind schedule. McArthur more than the others because he had surgery. He's not going to be back until almost the summer. But we'll see Marsh and Wright here pretty quickly once they're fully ramped up. But it seems like they are on track to be back sooner rather than later. A lot of guys assigned to minor league camp. Harold Castro, Brian O'Keefe, Tyler Tolbert, and Taylor Clark all assigned to minor league camp. And then today, Nick Lofton, Joey Weimer, and Drew Waters all assigned to minor league camp and optioned to Omaha. I thought Nick Lofton had kind of earned his spot. He had a pretty solid spring. He can play all over like this team wants guys to be able to do, have that positional versatility that I've talked about in the past. But they decided to go with the veteran Mark Canha. Nick Lofton has options, so it makes some sense that they would exercise those and see if Mark Canha works. If not, Lofton, I'd imagine, comes up here soon. Weimer was hot and cold early in the year, or early on in spring. It was pretty rough, but he shows that there's legitimate big league power there, and maybe there's something he can unlock in Omaha that really helps him take that next step forward. I think we'll see him in Kansas City in some sort of platoon situation with Kyle Isbell at some point. Even if it's not right now, Drew Waters is organizational depth, in my opinion, just like Nick Prado and Nelson Velasquez. It falls into that same category. So we have the 26-man roster. Even if it hasn't been announced officially, it's essentially set now. Your starting rotation has remained unchanged. Cole Reagans, Seth Lugo, Michael Waka, Michael Lorenzen, Chris Bubich, who pitched very well today against Texas in his final tune-up, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings, looked the part. I'm excited how his first start of the season will look here in the next week or so. Your bullpen: John Schreiber, Daniel Lynch, Chris Stratton, Hunter Harvey, Sam Long, Angel Serpa, Carlos Estevez, and Lucas Ursig. We pretty much had that the whole time, so we've been on track there, which is validates me, makes me feel like I know what I'm talking about for a change. Your starting lineup in some capacity: Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Massey, Michael Garcia, Bobby Wood Jr., Jonathan India, Kyle Isbell, Hunter Renfroe, and MJ Melendez. Your bench is Freddie Fermin, Kevin Biggio, Dairon Blanco, and Mark Canha. So that's going to be your 26-man roster. It's going to get announced at Kauffman Stadium on Thursday. So we're going to talk a little bit more about opening day and the Cleveland Guardians right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner impossible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
As I mentioned at the beginning, make sure you are subscribed on audio and video platforms. Hit the like buttons, rate, review, subscribe, all of those things. Hit the notification bells as well. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, expect episodes throughout the season. As I mentioned, opening day. I'm so excited. It's finally here. Thursday at Kauffman Stadium, 3:10 first pitch. Cole Reagans taking the mound for the Royals. Tanner Bybee taking the mound for the Cleveland Guardians. It is sold out, so hopefully you got your tickets, and if you haven't gone, check resale markets and hope you don't pay out the ass, but it's gonna be a hot ticket. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Sold out Kauffman Stadium is amazing. The last time we saw Kauffman Stadium, it was sold out for game 4 of the ALDS, and I was there for that was never game 4. I was there for game 3, and I hadn't experienced that level of Kauffman Stadium in a very long time. And even though I didn't talk about it a ton that day because the Royals lost, like, it was one of the most electric experiences of my life. And sold out baseball games, and in this city where people care so damn much and they want to see the Royals succeed and the Royals win, it's a big deal. And there's a lot of buzz right now around this team and what they're able to do. I'm listening to a lot of national podcasts, and people are picking the Royals to make them not only make the playoffs, but win the division. Bobby Wood Jr. winning MVP, not just, a homer like me, picking him to win MVP. Different pundits around baseball that cover the sport nationally are picking him as well. So there is a lot of hype, and I think the hype is real, and this isn't just a pipe dream for what this team can be. So get out to Kauffman if you can, and if you can't do it on Thursday, get there on Saturday, get there on Sunday. I think the weather is going to be beautiful on opening day, and then it should be nice this weekend as well on Saturday and Sunday. So be sure to get out there. If you're not there this weekend, I think the next weekend, Baltimore's coming to town. So then you get Bobby versus Gunnar, and that's going to be a heck of a series as well, and they're trying to get out for that. All right, so let's talk about the Cleveland Guardians. Won the division last year. First year was Stephen Vogt, and they made it all the way to the ALCS against the New York Yankees, and played them fairly well. If the series wasn't very long, you felt like the Guardians were in it for the most part. I still remember the big John Kenzie Noel walk-off home run that was absolutely electric. It was their biggest moment, but obviously the Yankees ended up getting it done and getting the World Series. Not a ton has changed for the Guardians. They still obviously have your Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez at the top of the lineup. Kyle Manzardo, who came over from the Rays last season, as kind of their DH. Carlos Santana's back, which I thought that was a super interesting signing. That he's 39 years old, still kicking around, and it's not like he's a bad player. It's kind of shocking that they would make that move when they have some young guys they could bring up. They still have Lane Thomas. They just traded for Nolan Jones, who was originally a Guardians prospect, if I recall correctly. Who got traded, I believe he got like non-tendered, went to the Rockies, and now he's back. Bo Naylor is your everyday catcher now. Gabriel Arias, after they traded Andres Jimenez to the Blue Jays, and then Brian Rocchio is going to play shortstop for him. Other guy, Austin Hedges, who's one of the best backups in the league, can't hit worth a lick, but man, the guy is awesome defensively, and that's why he sticks around. John Kenzie Noel, who I just mentioned, I'd imagine he's going to be in the starting lineup with the lefty on the mound instead of Kyle Manzardo. That's the platoon that happens. Daniel Schneemann, who is a utility type for them. So those are the main position players. Obviously, Kwan and Jose Ramirez are the main guys to watch out for in this lineup. I had to go and look at Jose Ramirez's career stats against the Royals because it just feels like he hits 560 against them for some reason. We have nearly a full season's worth of data on this. 165 career games against the Royals. And Jose Ramirez slashes 278, 358, 514, which is way lower than I thought. You could have told me it was 500, 600, 700 slash, and I'd probably believe you. 31 homers, 101 RBIs, and 44 doubles. The guy is just a monster. I mean, he is one of the most underrated players in the league, if you could possibly say that. To me, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame without an MVP, which is, I think, astonishing. But when your prime is in the middle of Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, who racked up a bunch of MVPs during your prime too, that's just unfortunate. But he's an awesome player, one of my favorite players to watch in baseball, even if it is for a rival team. We'll go to the pitching side now, which is really where Cleveland just gets it done every year. It feels like even when their rotation is so-so, they just find a way to maximize everyone. Tanner Bybee, Gavin Williams, Luis Ortiz, Ben Lively, Logan Allen is the starting five to start the season. We'll see Shane Bieber again at some point after he comes off of Tommy John surgery. And John Means, Slade Ciccone, or a couple other guys. They're going to factor into that rotation. But I'd imagine we see Bybee, Williams, Lively Williams and Lively the last two games of that series. Bybee on opening day is really solid. Not super flashy, but just gets the job done. And the Royals have had some decent success against him over the past couple of years. So I feel pretty good about the matchup. The Royals do a good job against right-handed pitching because it's the way their roster is structured. A lot of those guys, they hit right-handed pitching well, but it's the lefty platoon that I've worried about, that we've talked about in the past. So I like the matchup against Bybee, at least early on in the season. Their bullpen is really, really good. It's what led them for the most part last season. Now, obviously, Emmanuel Clase, coming off I think he had a sub 1 ERA, finished third in Cy Young voting. To do that as a reliever is nuts. He's one of the best in baseball, if not the best. Relievers and closers, when he comes into the game, it pretty much feels like game over. Hunter with cut, it's pretty absurd when he comes on the mound. I still remember watching him in Double-A when he was in with the Rangers organization. I was doing some scouting at the time, and I was at the Tulsa Drillers versus the Frisco Rough Riders, and the scout that was sitting next to me tapped my shoulder and said, "Watch this kid." And it was Clase, and now 6-7 years later, he's one of the best closers in baseball. Cade Smith and Hunter Gaddis were two guys they leaned on heavily last season. Both pitched in 60-plus games throughout that year. Paul Sewald is a veteran, not super flashy. It's 90-92, but it's just this funky delivery, and the ball just kind of pops out. It's hard to pick up. Tim Herron is one of their main lefties. And then you'll see Tristan McKenzie out of the bullpen, a guy that's been in the rotation for quite a bit over the last few seasons. But I think some of this is an attempt to keep him healthy. He's a skinny dude that's had some injury history. So that's the way that this team kind of goes out. I like the matchup for the Royals, especially on opening day. You feel good anytime Cole Reagans is on the mound. That's a pretty solid feeling at this point. And the Royals haven't won on opening day in the last couple of seasons, and really kind of fell flat both in 23 and in 24. So I want to see them come out and make a statement. Opening day is as good a day as possible to do it. If Vinny Pasquantino is healthy, which I failed to mention off the top, so I'll get into it now before we wrap up. His hamstring started barking at him a little bit when he went to leg out a double play and tried to get on and at least get the fielder's choice, get on base. He took batting practice today. He took ground balls and looked like he was going full speed. Said it wasn't bothering him, which is huge. It was a grade 1 hamstring strain, so the lowest possible. It's like a little tweak more than a muscle tear or anything like that. So that's really good news. If he's in the lineup, then I feel really good that the Royals are going to be able to go out and get a win. If he's not, it gets a little bit more dicey and puts more pressure on Bobby and Salvi. But then again, they may just not pitch to either of them and make MJ beat him or Michael Massey beat him or Jonathan India beat him or whoever. And then it gets a little bit more dicey. But I feel confident in what Cole Reagans is going to be able to do on the mound. He's ready for this moment. He knows what it means. And win the game into the 7th inning, and then let's turn it over to Harvey and Ursig and Zerpa and Estevez, and let's get it done. I want to see that formula from the beginning of the season. And say they're up 4-2 in the 7th, you feel good that the Royals are going to go out and win a ball game. We haven't really been able to say that over the last couple of seasons until like the end of last year when they kind of got the bullpen figured out. Now that it's a little bit more solidified, I think it's a really good place to be. Like I said, I'm super excited. This was kind of a rambling show. I apologize. I didn't really have a ton to talk about, so I tried to lengthen it as much as I can. We'll obviously have more once we have real baseball on Thursday to talk about. I will talk to you guys on Friday after opening day. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. This is going to be a hell of a ride this season. I am excited. This is going to be a really fun team. This is going to be a really fun year, and I look forward to talking about it with all of you guys. And we'll talk to you on Friday, talking about opening day and then previewing the weekend. Take care.